Hey, so great to be with you. Thank you for having me be a part of this really good and important series in your church. Anger, as with all emotions, it's a normal part of God's creation of the human being. And so, as such, it needs to be, looked at and understood for what it is. I think it's the unruly part of anger that many of us might shy away from, right? But as the emotional experience that it is, it's trying to tell us something. And remember, as Dallas Willard so wonderfully said, feelings are wonderful servants, but disastrous masters. Anger is indeed disastrous if allowed to master you. Ephesians 4:24 and 25 talk about how it allows the powers of hell all sorts of room if you don't deal with it. So let's talk about you mastering it and allowing it to be a tool for you. So as Mark mentioned, anger is a secondary emotion, which means something else always comes first. We're never usually angry first in a situation. We're likely hurt, embarrassed, frustrated, or sad. And hurt is a little too vulnerable for us to feel. So what we do is we feel something more acceptable, like anger somehow feels more acceptable. Anger to that point is like a blanket, and it's almost always covering something else, and almost always that thing is hurt in some form or fashion. So to the degree that a person is angry, including yourself, it can be a very helpful starting point to simply see beyond the anger and consider how very hurt an angry person is, or even what is causing that hurt, trying to think about that. So perhaps you can start by asking yourself when you're angry, what is my hurt? And that could be helpful, even transformative. A second picture of anger is that it can be the byproduct of being a shove the stuff down person. You see, many of us develop a habit of shoving hurts down, mostly because we don't know what else to do with them, right? I say it's like we have a huge armoire, big old cabinet that houses the hurts we don't feel, the losses we don't grieve, and the pain that we don't acknowledge. And sadly, I found that most people who live their life this way not only seem successful, they're often lauded as spiritual. Yeah, but it will not work forever. We keep ignoring hurts and not dealing with feelings until the entire cabinet is full. And so the point of this picture is that at some point, what happens is that there's no more space, there's no more room inside for the hurt. So an anger outburst is essentially like pulling out a drawer, dumping out a little bit of it, and then making a space for the new hurt to enter and shoving the drawer back in. That's essentially what an anger outburst is, kind of like having a cup that is too full and you just totally full, and you just try to get some out of it so that something else can fit in there. So if you've never been a person that has had anger outbursts before and find yourself doing that now, might be important for you to realize you're getting full, and you could soon end up in depression or panic attacks or something worse. Because we all know how very much energy it takes to keep a large beach ball underwater. The biblical principle offered, it loosely said, is that what's in the dark grows and what's in the light shrinks. In other words, whatever is hidden tends to increase in pressure, strength, or power to consume. So dealing with feelings regularly will decrease this pressure and disempower anger. That's the key. A third way to learn from anger is that it can signal a blocked goal. It's why when I get cut off in traffic or someone steps in front of me in line, I don't get sad. It can be trying to reveal to you that you have a hope, a dream, or a desire that's being thwarted or interrupted by something or someone. So if your goal is to have a nice family outing and somebody comes in a bad mood or brings up a controversial subject, you can get angry with them, right? If you have a deep-seated desire of having a relationship free from conflict, you could unconsciously be angry with your spouse because you didn't realize you had that goal. If you want to surprise somebody with a gift and another person told them clearly, you could be angry with him or her. So seriously, we can see that there's hurt there. But for some of you, the idea that I might have a goal that is being blocked when I'm angry is a good starting point for you as you try to understand your anger. Not only is it spiritually critical for us to attend to what our anger is telling us, biologically it is crucial as well. You see, anger stimulates the fight or flight stress response of our nervous system, which creates cortisol levels in our body to increase. Cortisol is a hormone that is released in the body when in stressful or fearful situations. It's an essential hormone that affects all of the organs and tissue in our body. So states of anger raise our blood pressure, reduce our nervous system's ability to properly monitor information about your heart, lungs, and internal organs, among other things. So hormones and neurotransmitters are the chemical messengers in our brain which regulate our state of mind. Therefore, when they're imbalanced, our behavior can change very strongly. Because anger causes our bodies to have to work harder to get deficient hormones, this in turn reduces our ability to cope and weakens our adrenal glands. Studies have consistently found anger increase related to impairments in performance, cognitive performance, and even explicit memory. So the bottom line is that because of increased cortisol floating around in the body and therefore decreased neurotransmitters, anger literally inhibits our ability to think about anything clearly. Very important takeaway. And in that way, we aren't able to do what God gave us through Paul in 2 Corinthians 10:5, which says to take every thought captive to make it obedient to Christ. But the good news for us is that Romans 12:2, the way God talks to us in his word about how to function, it aligns with how he made our bodies. Romans 12:2 says, do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind in Christ Jesus. When we work with our anger and the way our brains are created, we can actually create new neural pathways, which are new ways of thinking that become our real life thoughts and subsequent emotions. We can be transformed, totally made different by renewing our mind away from the world's pattern of anger, grudge holding, blaming, and instead learning and growing from what our anger is showing us. All right, keep going. You guys are doing great. Great to be with you. Thanks so much.